Welcome back. This is part 2 of a character UV mapping tutorial series. Last video we discussed how to clean up our model, delete the history, freeze the transforms, set up the model so we can UV map the character properly, and then an introduction for how we're going to start UV mapping the body forms. This video we're going to talk about how to create the cut seams and unfold the torso, and then we'll work our way outward to the rest of the body. So the better way to, or the easiest way to start UV mapping characters is to think about as if we have actual cloth with our seams of how shirts, pants, gloves, other clothing is actually sewn together. And if you can approach UV mapping for characters like that, then any form on a character can be easily UV mapped. If you follow these videos, this will also give you a good starting point as well. So for the torso, the shirt and the torso, typically on shirts there's seams along the side. We don't typically have a seam on the front or the back unless it's a button-up shirt. So we're going to do a seam down the side, and then we're going to cut off any major area. So where the shirt meets the pants, where the shirt meets the neck, and then we'll try to treat the arms as if they're on kind of subset areas. I'll show you two different ways to do this. So what we want to do first is come in here and cut off the skin and the pants from where they meet the shirt. So I'm going to come in here and first off, since my character is symmetrical, I'm going to turn on symmetry. So if I turn on object X symmetry, whatever I select on one side, it's going to select on the other side. So that way I'm going to have to do half the work, which is going to be really nice. So with my shirt sleeve, I have two edges on the inside, and I'm going to select the edge loop, double click on that edge loop where the skin meets that shirt. Okay, and we're going to do, so if I zoom out a little bit and hit wireframe so you can see, that's a full edge loop, so that I'll cut the sleeve off of the skin. If I do cut, and then I'll go back into wireframe mode, that's a white seam there. Now one important thing to understand with UV mapping is that I'm cutting the UVs, which are on the same points as the edges and the vertices, but I'm not actually cutting the geometry up. So it's still one full body form. I'm only cutting the UVs. So I'm going to go in here where the neck is and select that edge loop around the neck and cut that as well. So that should be a cut seam to connect, that connects the head to the neck or to the shirt. So basically my head and my arms are separated now. I'm going to come in here and cut off the shirt from the pants. There you go. So that full loop is all the way around. So do cut. Okay, we'll come back and deal the other extremities and the head later. But right now, our torso is completely cut off from the UV standpoint compared to the rest of the body. You can tell that by in the UV editor, if you hold down right click and go to UV shell, and now if you click on the torso, the other body parts won't be selected. Okay, all the other parts that are still connected together as forms will still be selected, but my torso is now a separate form. If you hover over them in the 3D view, you can see that as well. So that way we know this torso form is separated. I can get my move tool and move that out of the way to show that they are not connected anymore. All right, so I'll show you both ways, and I'll show you why I would choose one way or the other here in a second. So what we can do is take the shirt and follow the seam of how most t-shirts would be created as well. Let's go into edge mode, and what I'm going to do is find this seam, so that one right there. I'm going to zoom in so I can find that small one as it meets. There you go. Move to that one. Make sure we get that little one right there. Okay. Then I can work my way down. If I hold down Shift and double click on an edge, that will connect those edges together. I'll work my way down to where that shirt meets the pants. And just make sure I have all the right edges in that area. Yeah, I do there. All right, so we'll cut. All right, so that could be all the seams that I potentially need. When I do have a 90-degree angle extruded out from my torso, like where the sleeve comes off, that could cause some stretching issues. I'll show you that here in a second. But that's all the seams I need for my torso to unfold. So let's right click in the UV editor and go into UV shell. I'm going to click on that UV shell and we'll do unfold. So you can see it did a pretty good job of unfolding and making sense of what's what here. You might need to rotate your UVs. So in UV shell mode, you can get the move, rotate, or scale to move things up and down. But hopefully this makes sense. This is probably the back. So the back of the character, and this is the front of the character. This is the right sleeve, or really if you turn off symmetry now, right sleeve versus left sleeve. So that's what we want when we're UV mapping, is to make sure that we understand the forms for the unfolded flattened UVs. The other thing we want to make sure of is that there's no overlapping UVs. So an overlapping UV could look like this. So some UVs are overlapping. An overlapping UV could also look like that, where they are pretty close to one another, but they are overlapping. So one thing we want to make sure is what the unfold tool does for us primarily is make sure that there's no overlapping UVs. Pending you have the right seams, cut seams, it will unfold with no overlapping UVs. So let's turn on the checker pattern. Let's go take a look at that. And it's doing a pretty good job. What we're always looking for is an even checker pattern throughout that body form. So never mind the rest of the body that we still need to correct. But we're looking for an even checker pattern. So that's pretty good. It's doing an alright job with the arms as well. A little bit of skewing underneath here, which may cause some issues. I'll show you a couple ways that we can correct that. But that's pretty good. So one thing we can do is take the arms where they connect to the torso and cut those off. Okay. And then if I go back to UV shell mode, let's click unfold again. And it's going to slightly correct those shapes. I'm going to select the sleeves and unfold those again. That will correct them a little bit and can allow us to not have as much distortion. It's not doing too much here. So in that regard, I might just leave them, I'm going to undo and leave them combined together. So, but simply put, we can just create a couple seams, one down the length of the side of the torso, and then cutting the arms and the head and the pants off from the torso, and then click unfold and watch what we do here to see a much more refined and natural looking UV set for the torso. Next video, we'll come back and work on the extremities and the head.